fights with passion, and he inspires.
Are you ready for a war?
All right, welcome back to From 8 Arbitration. Got a long episode today, man. Got a lot of stuff to cover. But first off, happy Easter to those of you who celebrate Easter. I do. And so we had a fantastic time at church today. Then went to my wife's aunt's house, and she always has a big spread there for us to eat. And so had a good day. So for those of you who celebrate, happy Easter to you. And been a crazy week, man. I'm going to say this. This has been the busiest week for me since I have started From 8 Arbitration, as far as people reaching out and telling me things, sending me things, asking about things. I have never had a busier week than this past week. And that's the honest to God's truth. It's been crazy all week. But we said management was going to come after us. They are. I'm going to touch on at least two things today. One's going to take pretty good time, and then the other shouldn't be too terribly long. But there's a bunch of stuff coming in, bunch of things that are going on, and I've always said if it's happening at one place, it's probably going to spread. And so there's been one's crazy, but we're going to address it. And so, but yeah, been a busy week. I've been out on my route all week. Great weather for me, but crazy week, man, as far as just the busyness of it. I want to touch on two things right off the jump. The first is two people have passed away. One very dear to me, and then one I did not know very well, but was a powerhouse for the NELC, and that is Judy Willoughby. And she was a past business agent of Region 9. And everything that you ever heard about that lady, she was a powerhouse for the union, for the NLC. And so I just wanted to send out my thoughts and prayers for her and her family. And a fantastic lady. You saw it, everybody putting it up everywhere. Nothing but great things said about that young lady. And so, yeah, that's always tough when we lose somebody that's special to us, somebody that has done so much for the city letter carrier. And I got this off of Eddie Davidson's Facebook page, but there's a celebration of life in loving memory of Judy Willoughby. And it gave her birth date and the date of her death, March 26th. A beautiful soul who will be missed by many. Date, Friday, May 1st, 2026. Friday, May 1st, 2026. Time 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. And please RSVP. And I don't have that RSVP because you got to click a link, and obviously I can't do that for y'all here. But there's going to be a celebration of life for that lady, Miss Judy Willoughby, Friday, May 1st, 2026. So maybe if you reach out to Region 9's business agent's office, they'll be able to set you up with that RSVP, all right? And so for a very special lady that's done a lot for the city letter carrier, a great woman. And so that was sad to see her passing. Another one is a guy that I worked with, and we just found out that he had passed away. His name is Paul Schlatt. And Paul Schlatt, when I first started at Belle Meade, when I came from Ackland Station and I bid to Belle Meade, carriers at Ackland are like, man, it's a different environment at Belle Meade. Just be ready, because they are heavy union. They don't take any shit from anybody. It's a rough group. So just be ready when you get out there. And it was. I got out there. There are a bunch of old heads out there. Now, Belle Meade is the richest zip code in the city. And so they got a lot of mail. Not many stops. And management hated Belle Meade. They were called the Belle Meade Mafia when I got out there. And they were rough as they come. There were several. Steve Weekly's one. He was probably the roughest carrier I've ever worked with as far as how he did management. I've never seen anything like it. Probably never will. Paul Schlatt, probably number 2. This dude was crazy, man. He was wild, son. And I mean, management could not do anything with this guy. And they are the ones that I've gotten when I say an educated workforce is a devastating thing, it's that initial group that I came into with Bill Meade that's my philosophy. I got it from them. All of them were educated. You could not get anything over on those carriers. They were all well educated on the contract. You could not get anything as a manager over on them. And I saw them beat management down. Paul Schlatt, one of the best I've ever seen. When I became a steward in 2006, I was terrified. I'd never seen a contract. I never saw an 8190. I didn't know the first thing. And I'm thinking, here I am. This is 20 years ago. So in my 30s, going to be the shop steward of these savages. So I was a nervous wreck, man. I turned it down initially. I was like, brother, you don't want that. I don't know anything about it. But I had went off a couple of times on a 6-day count on management for screwing us, because we averaged about 20 feet of mail back then, of flats. That was common. We had wire cages set to the side of flats because we couldn't fit it all on the floor. That's how many flats we had. And you get in a 6-day count, we'd have a foot or 2 feet. And so I would just go off. And because, you're stealing, basically, is what you're doing when you do that. So, yeah, you'd go from 20 feet to 2. And they're saying that that's representative of our mail volume. But anyway, Paul was one of the greatest characters I've ever known. And it was heartbreaking to hear of his passing. But I'll tell you a couple of stories of Paul Schlatt. And these are, and I'm telling on myself too, but we would all eat at Wendy's. There was a few places we ate at: Burger King, Wendy's, and then there was a Greek place, Caesar's, I believe is what it was called. Those are the 3 places we would generally eat. And Paul had a very good route. He had a kind of a retirement home apartment complex called Lion's Head, and had a mailroom there. And a lot of elderly people were there. And Wendy's is right. It was a little cul-de-sac. Wendy's was right there. And there was the cul-de-sac went straight ahead into Lion's Head, just dead end into that Lion's Head village. And so we were eating one day, and Paul Schlatt, he just jumps up and takes off running to the bathroom. So we're all thinking something didn't sit well with him. And so, I mean, because he didn't say I got to get up. I mean, it was just a jump up and run. And I'm like, damn. So it wasn't 2 minutes later, this woman walks in. And she comes up to us and she's like, hey, is Paul here? And so we realize what's up. He saw that lady coming. And so he jumps up and runs into the bathroom. And she's like, is Paul here today? So Steve, being Steve, he's like, well, he just went to the restroom. And so she's like, I'll just wait on him. So it was like 10 minutes. She's standing right beside the table. And Paul comes peeking out, like, damn it. And so he comes walking out, and he comes up to her and he's like, hey there, so-and-so. You can tell this woman had a crush on Paul. And she's like, Paul, I've been trying to call you. I don't have my phone with me today. She's like, oh, okay. Well, that's all right. And so she's still talking to him. He's like, well, hey, let's go outside. So they go out. All of our vehicles are parked down in this cul-de-sac. Parked down in this cul-de-sac, right? And so Paul goes with this lady down to his LLV, and he opens the door and he sits in the seat sideways, like he's going to step out. And that's how he's sitting. Both his feet are on the little thing where you step up into the vehicle. And she's standing like a foot from him. So we're watching. I said, hey, what's Paul's number? And Steve pulls his phone out, tells me. So I call Paul, and you see his head drop down, man. He's looking at He pulls the phone out of his pocket where where your pins are in the uniform. He says, hello. I said, hi, Paulie. Hi, Corey. I was like, We miss you. And so he cussed me out for 2 weeks after that, man, because he told that lady, says, I don't have my phone with me today, and it's right in his pocket. She didn't see it. I called him on it. Oh, shit. But that's just, I mean, that's shit we did, man, back then. But just seeing that head drop down when he's like, damn it. You know, hi, Paulie. We miss you. Yeah. And they still talk about that today, man. And there's this other thing. And my son, he works with me. I have 2 boys. My oldest, he goes to college. And then my middle child, he works with me. He's a clerk at my station. And he talks about this one all the time. But I was sitting on the toilet one day. I was reading the paper. This was a while back. And I'm just reading the paper on the toilet, you know. And, I mean, my uniform, I still have my shorts up, you know. I'm not using the restroom. I'm just sitting in there reading the paper. And so Paul comes in. There's only 2 stalls in this, in the restroom. So I'm sitting there reading the paper, and Paul comes walking in. He goes into the other stall. For some reason, he gets the Lysol spray. I'm not using the restroom. I'm just reading the paper. And he puts it over the stall and just starts spraying that Lysol spray on top of me. So it pisses me off. So I put my paper over my head. I'm like, what are you doing? He's just whistling, just spraying this Lysol. I mean, it's making a foam on the paper. He's spraying so much. I was like, what in the fuck are you doing, Paul? And he starts laughing. He had a very, very unique laugh. He starts laughing. So I get up, wash my hands off because I got, you know, all that Lysol on my hands. So I walk out. I go to the janitor's closet. Take the mop out of the mop bucket. And it's all this funk, right? So I take this hose and I fill the mop bucket all the way up to the top. It's sloshing out. I go rolling back in there with that mop bucket, just full of shit. And I'm whistling. I can't whistle very good, can I? And so I'm whistling, rolling that mop bucket in there. And I pull it right in front of the stall. He's like, Corey, no. I reach down and I pick up this mop bucket. He's screaming, Corey, no. And I pour it, every bit of that out on the top of that stall. Just, you see it just gushing out the bottom of that stall, just all this funk, and just covered his ass. And roll it back out. He comes out, man. He is soaked. He's soaked in that shit. And he couldn't say nothing because he's sitting there spraying all that shit on me, man. But they still talk about that today. Me just whistling, rolling that mop bucket in there, and him sitting there on the toilet. No, Corey, no. And I picked that son of a bitch up, just poured it straight over that stall, man. I just covered his ass. But we had a hell of a time, man. I mean, that was the glory days of Belle Meade. It's just, we had a crew. God, but he was something special, man. And he drove more managers crazy over a 3996 than I have ever seen in my life. People get worried about a 3996. He loved that argument, man. He loved it. And but you know, back then, man, it was crazy times. The 90s. It was the wild, wild west as a city letter carrier, and even into the 2000s. You know, this was 2006, and I took over as shop steward. But I remember we would eat at this place called the Idle Hour Tavern. The Idle Hour Tavern. It was on 16th Avenue, and I had just started. And you'd go down to the Idle Hour, and they said, "We're going to go eat lunch down here at the Idle Hour Tavern." I was like, "All right." And I said, "What they got?" Well, they got good cheeseburgers. I remember going in there. I don't drink, but all the carriers were in there drinking beer at this Idle Hour. We're on the clock. And so they're all drinking beer, and I'm like, what in the hell are y'all doing? Of course, I don't drink, so I just got a Coke. But And here comes the supervisor. I'm like, hell, we all fired now. And so what did the supervisor do? Had a seat and got a beer. And but that's how it was back in the 90s, man. I mean, it was crazy back then. So here's the supervisor. All the carriers drinking beer. The supervisor comes in there. He gets a beer, and all of them are drinking. I'm like, God, this is a different place here, man. But things have changed, brother. Things have changed. But Paul Schlatt, man, what a fantastic guy. God, I hated to hear of him passing. He was a door gunner in Vietnam on a helicopter. He was a door gunner and a wild individual, man. That dude was wild. He was one of those that would drive management crazy doing street observations, or if you did a $39.99 ride. Matter of fact, one time he was taking this guy out. I can't remember this manager's name, but he was notorious. And he went with Paul because he was going to teach Paul a lesson. So Paul was making 2 trips to the box. DPS, flats. DPS, flats. So the manager, he's in the back seat. He's like, why are you making 2 trips to the box? Make 1 trip. Get your DPS, get your flats, put it in there. He's like, I got too much mail. Because I'm telling you, we got mail. There was nothing for us to take 15 trays of flats out back then. Nothing. And so he's like, okay, if that's what you want me to do. So he gets his DPS, gets his flats in his hand, puts it out the door, all over the ground. Well, he puts it in park, curbs his wheel, get out, picks all the mail up, puts it in the box. The next box, gets the DPS, gets the flats, takes one hand, reaches it out the door, straight onto the ground because he can't hold it all. And so the guy said, okay, quit, stop. And then the guy, I remember he's talking about how Paul is going so slow. He's like, this trash man has passed you 3 times now. So Paul said, I have no street standard. And the guy said, well, that's ridiculous that the trash man is passing you. He's like, well, hell, I got to stop at every box. He was going so slow that the guy told him to stop. He got out of the back and walked back to the station. That's how slow Paul's going. This dude would rather walk back to the station than finish the route with Paul. But he was something else, man. He was something special. And I have not seen him. He came to eat with us one day. It was about a year or 2 ago. It's the last time I saw him. He had lost a lot of weight. But, yeah, it was good seeing him. But just seeing that he had passed brought all those memories back, man. It was a fantastic time with them. God, they were crazy, man. And for them to trust me to be their shop steward, God. But we raised hell, man. We sure did. We raised hell. So anyway, hope y'all liked that. That's 18 minutes. Dang, I think I started. I've got about 2 more hours to go. But anyway, so this week, James and I will be back on the campaign trail. We got a lot. April's going to be crazy for us. April is going to be absolutely crazy. And so we're going to be out on the trail again. Tuesday, we're going to be at branch 233 in Columbia, South Carolina. That's Tuesday, branch 233, Columbia, South Carolina. Columbia, South Carolina, branch 233, y'all come see us. Come see us, ask us questions, listen to us. We love getting out and campaigning. A lot of people don't understand that. I don't get it. You get a lot of salty motherfuckers on social media about James and I campaigning. We're going against the incumbent, and so we're going to go out campaigning. I don't understand why people don't get that, but we've got a campaign. You got Renfro. He's able to go around on y'all's dime. He hasn't announced yet. He knows when he announces he can't do that. He's able to fly places on your dime. He's able to go talk to people on your dime. And he's able to basically campaign about everything he's doing with the contract and everything he's doing with the education and all this other shit. And he's able to do that on your dime. James and I are going around on our dime and our leave. And last year, about the last 3 months, we was on leave without pay. And so people can't get that. I don't get it. But, we're going against the incumbent, so we got to get out out in the branches. And if anybody wants us to come see them, like I said, reach out to us. We're filling up fast, but if you want us to come see you, just reach out and we'll do everything humanly possible to come see you, all right? The 8th, Wednesday, Branch 78, Columbus, Ohio. That's Branch 78, Columbus, Ohio. That's the 8th. The 9th, a Thursday, Branch 111, Salt Lake City, Utah. We'll be out there and can't wait. We can't wait. A lot of people excited that we're coming. We're excited that we're coming. We can't wait to get out there and see everybody. The 14th, Branch 2550, Fort Lauderdale. That's the 14th. We're going to be out there to come see you. The 19th and the 20th, it's a COP in Puerto Rico. And the CLC will be out there in force. That's the COP in Puerto Rico, the 19th and 20th. And just about the entire slate will be there. The 25th, Branch 506, Davenport, Iowa. We're going to be there. The 26th, Branch 5, Omaha, Nebraska. We'll be there. And to end it all out, April 29th through May 1st will be the Region 1 rap session in Las Vegas. That'll be April 29th through May 1st, the Region 1 rap session. Now, let's talk about Region 1 at the rap session. Region 1 covers California, Hawaii, Nevada, and Guam. All right? California, Hawaii, Nevada, and Guam. Region 1. They've not had a business agent in a year. Think about that. Now, here's the responsibilities of the business agents, all right? Every region also employs at least one regional administrative assistant appointed by the NELC, National President, acting under the National President's ultimate directions. There's 15 elected MBAs, each responsible for one of 15 regions of the country. Serve the members and branches in their region. MBAs have extensive authority over union affairs in their regions and serve on the NELC Executive Council. I'll read that again. And serve on the NELC Executive Council. An MBA's primary responsibility is contract administration, handling grievances, presenting arbitrations, and dealing with regional postal management. They also deal with organizing and responding to requests for advice and assistance from branches in their region. Any member needing assistance should first contact his or her branch officers or national business agent before contacting NELC National Headquarters for help. Of course, Region 1 can't do that because they have no MBA, because your president has not assigned one. I believe it's because when they had the California State Convention, they unanimously chose to give him a no confidence vote. And I believe he's just a bitter little boy. The reason he hasn't assigned a business agent to Region 1 is because of that. That's what I feel. That's my opinion. So Region 1 has no business agent, has not had one for a year. And that's, when you talk about dereliction of duty, that's it. That's it. That's just a simpleton right there. That you would hold that against an entire region because you got a no confidence vote. You're a terrible president. Why would you get offended by a no confidence vote? Nobody has any confidence in you. There'd be no business. Well, can't say that because you still got a lot that will carry that boy's water around for him. But anyway, like I was saying, been a busy week. Now, Hot House with Richie Ray. I was on there the other day. That came out yesterday, I believe. Go listen to it. Hot House with Richie Ray. I was on there yesterday. He recorded it a few weeks ago, but we spent a couple of hours talking to each other. Great time. I love Richie Ray. I love Richie Ray. His passion, his heart for the city letter care is unmatched. And so we had a very good time talking with each other. Right? So go check that out. Here's just a few things that I've screenshotted that I'm going to talk about. And then there's two things specifically I'm going to talk about. One's going to take a great deal of time. Have your pen and paper ready. Okay? The other one shouldn't take too terribly long. And I'm just going to cover these. It's going to be just a hodgepodge. I'm going to go all over the place on this, okay? Because there's no rhyme or reason to these. I just screenshot things and I'm going to talk about them just to show you where we're at across the country, things that are going on. Here's one that somebody sent. It was a scanner message. It says, "What harassment? You're creating all the problems yourself. You demonstrated your pace with almost double the DPS and you were done an hour early. Please explain why you're so late today." I'm going to read this again. This is a scanner message to a carrier. "What harassment? You're creating all these problems yourself. You demonstrated your pace with almost double the DPS and you were done an hour early. Please explain why you're so late." I will not explain anything over a scanner. Matter of fact, the person that sent it to me told them that. They said, "I need my steward." They was like, "No, you need to tell us why you're so..." "I need my steward." That's what he kept saying. "I need my steward." And so that's exactly right. But we were going to grieve that, okay? We'll grieve that because we have no demonstrated performance, right? We have no demonstrated performance. That's exactly what they're trying to do. This is nationwide now. They're trying to give us a demonstrated performance. You've seen that. Unfortunately, our union is helping them with that. This president is helping them with that. And the things that he's putting into play with his signature. But when you look at M1444, that's one of the things that we're going to use to defeat that. And it says in part, "Furthermore, the pre-arbitration settlement there, dated October 22nd, 1985, provides that there's no set pace at which a carrier must walk and no street standard for walking." That's M1444. Then you have M1769, same thing. "Furthermore, as stated in the agreement for the case there is no set pace at which a carrier must walk and no street standard for walking." Okay? So I have no standard. I have no set pace. And what does this thing say? You demonstrated your pace. I think that's what it said, right? You demonstrated your pace. I'm going to read 1769 again. "There is no set pace at which a carrier must walk, and no street standard for walking." I'm going to read this again. "What harassment? You're creating all these problems yourself. You demonstrated your pace with almost double the DPS." I'm going to read M1444. "There is no set pace at which a carrier must walk." Okay, so that's a violation of those two things. I'm going to file a grievance on that. I'm going to take this screenshot. I'm going to say management is trying to tell me that I have a street standard, that I have a certain pace. I've got M1444, 1769 says I have no pace. We're going to grieve that, all right? Don't ever answer a question on a scanner. I'll do exactly what this individual said. I need a steward present, all right? Here's another thing, and this is one of the things that has come up like crazy this week. And this is rampant everywhere. Rampant. My manager is heavily enforcing this 20-minute office time. I thought it was route adjustments and doesn't actually create a new standard. Can someone please send some language either refuting or proving this? Here's another one. "Hey, Corey, how do I prove there's 33 minutes of office time and not the 20 minutes my station manager is saying? We have 10-minute office break. Also told him it's 43 minutes with that break." I've got numerous messages this week from across the country, management enforcing a 20 minutes office time. Now, when we looked in the new agreement, this is one of the things that they pushed on us. To me, we voted it down in the TA. And that's one of the things. a lot of controversy there. People saying, well, these are things that were agreed upon. If you put something in front of me that I'm voting on and I vote against it, then I don't care if it was agreed to at any kind of convention or anything like that. If it came out as a packet on what I'm going to vote on and I looked at it and I don't agree with it and I vote against it, then that should have been done away with. If it's something that was agreed upon at a convention, it should not have come up for vote. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. But the 20 minutes fixed office time is something that Renfro came up with himself. And he agreed with management. Okay? Now, the 33 minutes of fixed office time has not changed. It has not changed. If you look on page 230 of the National Agreement, it talks about the MOU for fixed office time in a joint route evaluation and adjustment environment. Now, I hear that they're right on the doorstep of giving us one. And unfortunately, I think that somebody told me they're going to try to put this into the agreement. And that management is trying to do away with more fixed office time, is what I've heard. Now, I don't know that for sure, so take it for what you want. But I hear that they're on the doorstep of another route evaluation process, and that they're trying to convince your bonehead president to reduce the fixed office time even more. To me, I'm never going backwards on anything. And I don't care if they put a great case in front of me for it. I'm not going backwards on anything, because management's attempts to reduce our office time are well documented. You got the hour office time. Then you got 45 minutes office time. You got 30 minutes office time. You've got 5 minutes of PM office duties. All of these things management has been beating us to death over. And then you got your president coming in saying, I will help y'all. I will help y'all in what you're trying to do, reduce office time. I'll help you do that. You should never help management, ever. But hell, this motherfucker's on podcast with them, yucking it up. While they're beating the ever-loving shit out of us, this dumb fucker is on a podcast with Naps, yucking it up about whatever. God, I'm not getting into that. But page 230, fixed office time in a joint route evaluation and adjustment environment. The parties recognize that office work for city carriers has evolved due to the changing mail mix, which has impacted caseable mail volume, parcel volume, and accountable mail. In addition, the creation of new modern facilities has also impacted office activities and further necessitates the need to make changes. The components of determining standard office time and the evaluated office time needs to be representative of our current work environment. The parties agree that identifying the necessary time utilized to perform office activities effectively, other than casing mail and pulling down mail which is specific to each route as recurring and non-recurring, is appropriate for developing a representative fixed office time. To modernize the process of evaluating office time on letter carrier routes in a route evaluation and adjustment environment, the parties agree to jointly modify the minimum time values for line items, including in fixed office time, to maintain components of standard office time that are representatives of the current environment. Minimum time values for the office activities line items below will not be less than the indicated values. And it gives the 20 minutes. Okay? So his defense was, it says it will not be less than those. You still have to give him credit for those. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's not on the floor having to fight this fight. And that's the problem with this knucklehead, is that he does things. He's not on the floor having to fight for the shit he's doing to us. And that's what pisses me off the most. With those times on the memos. And I know I beat that to death, haven't I? But his dumb ass is not here on the floor having to fight for that. He continues to put us in positions to fight. And he's not in the fight. We're down here fighting for an hour office time, 20 minutes of fixed office time, 22 minutes of load time. All that shit he's done or failed to fight. And so, yeah, he continues to sign things into effect that beat the shit out of us. I've never understood this president at all. He's got a few short months to go. He knows that. I'm hearing now that he may have to run by himself because nobody else is running with him on a slate. I'm hearing Barner's probably going to run by himself against me because nobody else, he can't find a slate to get on. So it's disarray up there, man. It's disarray. They can't find anybody to beat James. And they put every scenario humanly possible together to try to beat James. Can't do it. James is the only one with an ounce of integrity. Everybody else is a shit show. It's constant shit show with everybody else. It's always something. You see online, it's always something. I'm like, God, dog, thank God for James and his integrity. You don't have to worry about all this shit coming out on social media about, well, I fucked up another time and here's this and I fucked up again and all that. I'm like, God bless. It's just constant fucking drama on these other ones running. I'm like, dear God, thank you for the committee that voted for James Henry. Shit. I couldn't stand all the fucking drama. It's always something. Well, I fucked up again. Here's this. They're after me. Here's this here. Holy fuck, man. But anyway, they can't find anybody for James Henry. I got off a little bit there, didn't I? What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, 20 minutes of fixed office time. So, yeah, they're beating the hell out of us nationwide on the 20 minutes of fixed office time. That's very easy. Just go to page 230 of the national agreement, pull that out. So that's for a joint route evaluation process. We're not in one. We're in a 6-day count process. Okay, they've not come up with any joint route adjustment process. All right, so that's how you're going to deal with that. Got a stand-up talk this morning that the higher-ups want to push more open routes and downtime for carriers. Why is it always the carriers that have to do extra work on downtime to make up for the financial issues of the post office? Do clerks or other crafts have to do extra on downtime? It's so ridiculous to me. There are so many ways for the PO to trim the fat, but they always go after the carriers who have the most physical and demanding work. Downtime. That's not up to management. That is not up to management. That's up to us if we have downtime. Now, one of the things that they are doing, and I talked about this last week, I believe, is DOAS and PET. DOAS and PET are rampant right now, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to start using DOAS and PET, and I might do an episode every Sunday just on DOAS and PET. The carriers have got to educate themselves on DOAS and PET. That's what management is using right now. That's how they're claiming all this undertime or downtime is DOAS and PET. We have got to educate ourselves on that. And I'll do that. I might do a segment of that every week until I retire. I might do that because that's where they're headed. They're going to come after the city letter carrier. They're not going to correct themselves. I'm going to show you something in just a second. It's going to piss you off. But they're coming after us. How are they going to make their savings? Us. You got a standard. You got a set pace. You got 20 minutes of fixed office time. You're going to, all this undertime. We're going to split all these routes. No more overtime. Everything is coming after us, okay? Everything that they're doing, they're coming after us. How is discipline sticking for a regular city carrier if there is no street standards? I never understood that. They have to adjust the route to you if you're not making it. Also, they're going by saying DOAS says you're under this much, you need to pivot. How can you say that when there's comfort stops you can take and as many bathroom stops as you need? Postmaster says carriers are getting removed for not making standard. First off, if a postmaster tells you something, motherfucker's lying. He's lying. They're lying to you. Postmasters, supervisors can't do nothing but lie and steal and cheat. And I'm going to show you something else in a second. I'm going to piss you off. It's going to take most of my time on that. But stealing, cheating, lying, that's all they know how to do. So if they say they're getting fired for not making standard, show it to me. But Again, DOAS. They're going by DOAS, saying you have undertime. That is rampant. It's rampant. And we have no street standards. So, yeah, they're going to keep going around with DOAS. I talked about that last week. Just listen to Sunday's episode. It was awesome. I've heard that supervisors get bonuses, 7% of their pay, if they get us to scan the SPM on time and get carriers out of the office. I was thinking maybe tell your listeners that bit of information. Don't know, just gets me mad to know those guys make money off of our work while we sweat in the street. They sit in an office and make money off of us. But yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. They're still getting their bonuses. That's a fact. They're still getting a healthy raise. That's a fact. And we're broke. I talk about that all the time. There's nothing changed with management. They still get, 20% raise they got? And then they get bonuses. I read that the other day. So they're still getting their raises, still getting their healthy bonuses, and yet we're broke. We just had the Postmaster General sit up in front of that committee and tell them how broke we are. But yet they're still getting their raises and still getting their bonuses. That's why I don't care about anything they say. I don't care about the first damn thing that they say about being broke, because they've not done the first damn thing to correct it. We have 83 routes total in our office with 3 zip codes. I've heard they're looking to get rid of anywhere from 13 to 18 routes. This side begins on Saturday, April 4th. 13 to 18 routes. And that's going on everywhere. I believe they're trying to take out as many routes as possible before a joint process comes up. I believe that. I believe they're trying to take out as many routes. And they don't care about what the numbers say. They don't care if they're looking at these routes and there's these stations and they're like, well, it looks like we can get a couple hours out of there. Take out 4 routes. That's what they're doing. I know that for a fact. It looks like we can take a route and a half. Take out 5 routes. Well, we'll lose that. We'll lose it, but it'll be in about a year. So, but that's what's happening. And we got your bone-ass president sitting in front of a podcast with naps. And this is what they're doing to us. All of this shit I'm reading they're doing to us, your dumb-ass president sitting on a fucking chair in front of naps on a podcast. What the fuck? What is that, really? I talked about this. What's going on, really, here? Seriously. How is this possible for a president of one of the major unions in this country sitting with our enemy on a podcast? And this is what they're doing to us. They just said they're coming in to take out 13, 18 rounds. They've not even done the fucking 6-day count yet. They're going to take out 18 routes. Not even step foot in the fucking station yet. Here's something else. Somebody sent me this. It says Ironton is still kicking ass. Almost 100,000 for payouts for violations last year. Here's the latest one. Each employee, this is the GATS payment. Each employee got $3,375. Each carrier. $3,375, totaling $54,000. $54,000 in grievance payouts on one grievance. Do you know what it was for? Y'all want me to tell you what it was for? $54,000. Now, management refusing to meet with us at informal and formal. $54,000 because management refused to meet at the informal and formal A levels. How's that possible? If you're going to sit up there, the Postmaster General is going to sit up there and talk about how broke we are, and I say you've not done the first damn thing, they just lost $54,000 because your supervisor refused to meet with us at the informal step A level. Because the postmaster or their designee refused to meet with us at the formal step A level. How is that even possible that happens? Where's the district manager in all of this? Where's the district manager saying, if I see one fucking grievance come up that you're refusing to meet, that's your ass? Where's that email? Where's district managers reaching out by email telling formerly representatives or branch presidents, hey, if I see one fucking grievance come up here where you or your designee didn't meet at the formal step A, that's y'all's fucking ass. Where is that? I've got a postmaster general sitting up in front of a committee talking about how it's the carrier's fault. Need to cut out overtime. We need to go to a part-time workforce. A non-career. We need to go more towards a non-career workforce. We need to go to cutting out all the overtime because our managers don't know how to fucking manage. That's basically what it is. Look, our managers are dumb as fuck. They don't know how to manage the first damn thing. They've lost $1 billion and counting in grievance payouts. Well, what are y'all doing about it? We're going to attack the carriers. Excuse me? Yeah. We're going to cut out all their overtime. We're not going to pay them a living wage, but we're going to cut out all their overtime. Now, you got management wasting $1 billion, and you're saying it's the carrier's fault? Yeah, we got to get those points down. And so it's overtime. That's $100 million. But you lost $1 billion in payouts. I know it, but it's the carrier's fault. Trust me. And so we need to go to more of a non-career workforce. Now that's gonna settle management's or solve management's losing this $1 billion. How? Well, we're not worried about that. See, once we get these carriers to a part-time or non-career workforce and cut out all their overtime, we won't have to worry about the grievance payouts because we can't stop that because our management are too fucking stupid to educate themselves on how to abide by the agreement. And nobody is talking to anybody about it. I just lost $54,000 because the motherfuckers are too lazy and stupid to meet with us at the informal level. Well, how is this motherfucker still employed? It makes no sense. But them motherfuckers coming after us, they get so mad at management, they just slap us around. And your agent sitting on a fucking stool with these motherfuckers on a podcast. God. Now, all this rest of the stuff we're going to talk about next week. I've got so much stuff I could be here for 4 fucking hours. But there's 2 things in particular that I'm going to talk about. The first one is, and it's going to be very simple. It's a very simple grievance, but here's what you're going to see, and I know this for a fact. Management is splitting an enormous amount of routes each day, okay? They're going after the overtime, so they're going to be splitting these routes. 2 or 3 carriers per route. That's how it happens in my station. They're splitting like 6 routes a day, 2 carriers per route. Now here's something that's been happening, and it's happening nationwide. They're starting to bring in CCAs later and later. Noon. Somebody sent me something the other day, said our CCAs aren't scheduled till 4 p.m. Some are not scheduled till noon. And so the CCAs are not coming in till late. We're splitting all these routes. We don't have enough bodies. Management is carrying these routes. That is happening. I know that for 100% certainty. Management are carrying the routes, the pivots themselves. You're going to see more and more of that because they're put in a position that they cannot win and they cannot do. You're going to split 6 routes. I don't have enough bodies. Figure it out. My CZAs aren't coming into 4. Figure it out. We don't want any overtime. Split these routes. Tell them you got to go by DOAS and PET. Tell them they've got undertime. It's not working. Figure it out. The only avenue that they have is to deliver the mail themselves. Okay? Pay attention. Pay attention to that. The only way they're going to be able to do what upper management is telling them to do is to deliver the mail themselves. Okay? I got a couple of things for you. This is out of Contract Talk. Now, here's where you're going to need your pen and paper, especially for this next thing I'm going to tell you. Contract Talk, this is back from 2017. Supervisors performing bargaining unit work. And then I've got two sites for you. Advocates, if you want to write these numbers down. They're good sites, but I got these two specifically for the things that they talk about, the arbitrator talks about. New stewards. What are you looking for when management is performing bargaining unit work? Where do you even go when you're going to file a grievance? Okay, and that's the question I was asked 100 times this week alone. It's because they're telling me that managers are delivering the routes, supervisors are delivering their routes. Where do I start? So I handed this out a bunch. But new stewards. We're going to go to Article 1, Section 6. Article 1, Section 6 of the National Agreement prohibits supervisors from performing any bargaining unit work except in very limited circumstances. Section 6A states, now the very limited circumstances, that's where you're going to get into it with management, because they're going to say, we didn't have enough bodies to deliver the mail. That's what they're going to say. They probably left their ODL people at home, which is what's happening. And they're going to say, well, the carriers we had available didn't have enough time or carriers to deliver the mail, so we had to do it, so it's an emergency situation. I got two sites for you. Section 6, performance of bargaining unit work. A, supervisors are prohibited from performing bargaining unit work at post offices with 100 or more bargaining unit employee except 1, in an emergency. 2, for the purpose of training or instruction of employees. 3, to assure the proper operation of equipment. 4, to protect the safety of employees. Or 5, to protect the property of the USPS. They will always go with the emergency. 1. USPS NELC Joint Contract Administration Manual, JCAM, which explains the national parties' agreed upon interpretation of the national agreement, states in part the following on page 15 in regard to the above provisions. The prohibition against supervisors performing bargaining unit work also applies to acting supervisors 204Bs. The PS Form 1723, which shows the times and dates of the 204B detail, is the controlling document for determining whether an employee is in a 204B status. A separate PS Form 1723 is used for each detail. A single detail may not be broken up on multiple PS Form 1723 for the purpose of using a 204B on overtime in lieu of a bargaining unit employee. Article 41 1A2 requires that a copy of the PS Form 1723 be provided to the union at the local level. An acting supervisor, 204B, may not be used in lieu of a bargaining unit employee for the purposes of bargaining unit overtime. An employee detailed to an acting supervisory position will not perform bargaining unit overtime immediately prior to or immediately after such detail on the day he/she was in a 204B status unless all available bargaining unit employees are utilized. However, an employee may work bargaining unit overtime, otherwise consistent with the provisions of Article 8, on the day before or the day after a 204B detail. And that's step 4, M1177. 1177. An emergency is defined in Article 3F as an unforeseen circumstance or a combination of circumstances which calls for immediate action in a situation which is not expected to be of a recurring nature. And that's where management's going to try to win this case, and they can't. Article 1, Section 6B addresses supervisors performing bargaining unit work in offices with fewer than 100 bargaining unit employees and reads as follows. B. In offices with less than 100 bargaining unit employees, supervisors are prohibited from performing bargaining unit work except as enumerated in Section 6A1 through 5 above, or when the duties are included in the supervisor's position description. Branches that wish to determine whether a post office has 100 or more bargaining unit employees should contact the NELC National Business Agent for their region. Of course, Region 1 can't do that because they've not had a business agent for over a year because this bitch-ass president has got his pride and in his feelings about having this no confidence vote against him. So he has jeopardized an entire region because of his pride. That's not in this contract talk. I just put that in there myself. The Step 4 settlement, M21, provides that, except in accordance with Article 1, Section 6 of the National Agreement, an employee in a 204B status as a supervisor shall not perform bargaining unit work while he or she is in the 204B status. Form 1723, assignment order, is the controlling document to be used in determining whether the employee is in a 204B status. Man, I'm trying to yawn, ain't I? It's late though. It's almost 11:30. Furthermore, the Step 4 settlement M755 reads that in accordance with Article 41, Section 182 of the National Agreement, Form 1723 shall be provided to the union at the local level, showing the beginning and ending times of the detail. Such copies of Form 1723 should be provided to the union in advance of the detail or modification thereto. Other Step 4 decisions related to Article 16A and B of the National Agreement are: M336 states that the Postal Service reaffirms its intent that supervisors will do as little bargaining unit work as possible and that such work will be performed only under the strict limitations of Article 1, Section 6, and that's M336. M202 provides that the changing of collection box labels should be performed by bargaining unit employees and that supervisors will refrain from performing bargaining unit work except as specifically provided for in Article 1.6 of the National Agreement. M832 and M974 provides that where the phrase distribution tasks or may personally perform non-supervisory tasks is found in a supervisor's job description, this does not include casing mail into letter carrier cases. The provisions for distributing mail, as contained in the supervisor's position description, refer to clerk duties and not the routing of mail into a carrier case, and that's M832 and M974. M870 provides that the general delivery and pickup of express mail is bargaining unit work. That's 870. M205 provides that the supervisor has been instructed to discontinue placing the mail in question on the carrier's ledge. M540 states that except in an emergency, a supervisor should not transport a member to his or her route. And that also goes for if management attempts to carry your pivots out to you, or your takeoffs or handoffs or whatever y'all say. They cannot bring that mail out to you on the route. That's a grievance, okay? The appropriate remedy for a grievance alleging a violation of the above provisions would be to pay the employee or employees whom management should otherwise have assigned the work for all the time the supervisor or 204B spent performing bargaining unit work. The remedy should be calculated at what would have been the applicable pay rate had the employee been able to perform the work, even if it results in overtime or penalty overtime. Here's two arbitrations. I'm just going to read the award, and they're good because it covers a few things that I want to cover. One is C10597. C10597. And it's in front of arbitrator Williams. And this is out of Camden, Tennessee. Background: the grievants are employed as letter carriers and assigned to the post office, Camden, Tennessee. One is a full-time regular carrier, the other is a part-time flexible carrier. The parties have no dispute over what happened and precipitated the filing of the instant grievance on May 26 of 1990. The office had 3 regular routes and 3 full-time regular carriers were assigned to them. Regular carrier Pierce was on annual leave. Carrier Carey was off duty on his regular non-scheduled day, Carrier Grooms was on duty and was performing his regular assigned duties on route number 2. After working approximately 2 hours, PTF Carrier Eubanks, who apparently had been casing Route 3, tendered his resignation to Superintendent of Postal Operations Christopher, making it effective immediately and leaving the office at about 900 hours. So my man said, I've had enough of this shit. PTF Carrier Gillum was on duty at the time and was casing route number 1. PTF Clerk Weatherly was also on duty. Before transferring into the clerk craft, she had worked as a rule letter carrier associate for about 2 years. When Carrier Eubanks left, the SPO instructed Carrier Grooms to case Route 3 rather than complete the casing and delivering of Route 2. He assigned Clerk Weatherly to deliver a portion of Route 2. Then he completed the casing and delivering of the remainder of Route 2's mail. He finished the route at approximately 14:30 hours. And here's his opinion. I'm of the opinion, and so find, the employer violated the terms of the national agreement on May 26, 1990, when the SPO performed bargaining unit work. I will briefly explain below the reasons for my forming this opinion. At the outset, it is to be noted that management at the Camden office has not seen fit, using the SPO's term, to implement an overtime desired list. He gave no further explanation for failing to meet the requirements of the national agreement regarding overtime assignments and the use of the ODL to select the letter carrier who would be given those assignments. The SPO's explanation for believing that he had no choice but to step in and fill the void created by the unexpected resignation and departure of PTF Carrier Eubanks seemed to come about as a result of his notion that PTF Clerk Weatherly did not know the names of the streets in the residential part of town, and that she would be unable to deliver mail there because no name signs did not appear on each street corners, which necessarily meant that she could not deliver mail outside the downtown business area and along Main Street. He also said the dispatch time of the office was 16-15 hours and that all work on the routes must be completed by then, which per him could not be accomplished without him going out onto the street himself, which he did. Now, here's the reason I wanted this one. If management attempts to say that they're having to deliver these things because they're splitting all these routes, they're being forced to split 6 or 7 routes a day. Normally they would split 2 or 3. They would have carriers on the ODL coming in on their non-scheduled day. They're no longer able to do this. And so they're having to meet a dispatch of value or window of operation. And so since they have a dispatch of value or window of operation, they're having to deliver this mail. That's the only way that they can get it delivered in time for the dispatch. Okay? That's the reason I wanted this decision. Because with management, upper management telling them to do things they cannot do, which is split all these routes with no overtime or whatever, they're going to start delivering our mail. And they're going to come up with excuses like, well, we had all these routes split. I had to get the carriers back by the last dispatch, so I had to deliver this portion of the route myself. This arbitration talks about it. The letter carriers are said to be scheduled to return from the street at 15:30 hours. The record shows that on a heavy mail day, it is not unusual for one or more of them to return to the office at 1700 hours. The latter is in fact not disputed by the SPO. It can be said, therefore, that while it is desirable for an operations efficiency standpoint for carriers to return to the office in time for the raw mail to be processed for dispatching at 16-15 hours, the fact remains that does not always occur. Moreover, no claim was made by the SPO that delaying return of the raw mail as a result of the 1700-hour arrival at the office created an emergency situation which either was or is comparable to what allegedly happened. It seems reasonable to conclude, therefore, that in times past, the failure of a carrier to return to the office in time for his raw mail to be processed for dispatching was not considered to be anything more than a routine circumstance, albeit non-desirable, as distinguished from being an emergency one. And if that to be the case, no emergency being created when raw mail is not dispatched, it should follow that the SPO's decision should not have been influenced by that fact, but he said it was so influenced. The question then becomes, did or could Miss Weatherly's lack of familiarity with the streets of the town compound the problem of Mr. Eubanks quitting to the end that the SPO could reasonably call the situation an emergency and thereby effectively cast aside the contractual commitment of the employer that supervisors would not undertake bargaining unit work except in emergencies? I believe, and so find, the question last posed must be answered in the negative for several reasons, not the least of which is occasioned by the fact that at the hearing, the SPO admitted that he did not know, nor did he ask Miss Weatherly whether she had knowledge of the streets of the town. His assertions concerning her limitations, therefore, are untrue at worst, and made from whole cloth at best. He's dogging my man, ain't he? Moreover, he used her as an excuse for what he did rather than as a legitimate reason for it. His conduct in that regard is nothing short of despicable and is very much unbecoming of a supervisor. It's 1990? Them lying bastards back then, weren't they? He called him out. It seems to me that even if Mrs. Weatherly did not know the names of the streets in the town, it would have been a simple matter to draw a map to provide her with whatever she might need in that regard. And it also seems to me that the grievance could have been utilized at least to the point of being paid at penalty overtime rate at less cost to the employer than that was it losing the regular services of the SPO for the time that vacated his regular duties and performed bargaining unit work. Simply put, the SPO's solution for solving what he claimed was an existing emergency situation was penny poor and pound foolish. I love this arbitrator here, man. Emergency said was penny poor and pound foolish from an economic standpoint from the employer. Moreover, absent an emergency, it was clear violation of the specific terms of the national agreement. I'm of the opinion, and so find the situation under discussion and which occurred on May 26, 1990 at the Camden office did not come within the ambit of the exceptions that are listed in Article 1.6. Therefore, the SPO erred when he undertook to perform bargaining unit work. Because of his error, the grievance must be, and the same hereby is, sustained. And so there's another, that's a great one there, because one of the things you may hear is dispatch of value window of operation. Here's another, and this is from Sherry Rose Talmadge. It's C34097. 34097. And it's management violated Articles 1, 3, 7, and 8. And I'll read the decision. Merits. As a result of staffing shortage and numerous letter carriers working with medical restrictions at the Burlington, Vermont Post Office since October 2017, management and bargaining unit employees from other crafts, clerks, and rural carriers have been performing city letter carrier craft work, delivering mail on an ongoing basis. This continued to be the situation during the period it would issue from February 9th of 2018 through July 8th, 2018. During this period, management has allowed city carriers, including those both on and off the overtime desire list, to work over 60 hours in a week and or 12 hours in a day on a regular basis. Management has paid the contractual remedy for any hour worked over 12 and 60. The parties stipulated that because the staffing levels are insufficient, allowing city carriers to be available for overtime in excess of the established contractual maxims was operationally necessary. Article 7, Section 2B and 2C set forth two situations in which management may require carrier employees to perform work in another craft. On Article 7, 2B, management may require an employee to work in another craft at the same wage level due to insufficient work in his or her own craft. Article 7.2c provides that under conditions of exceptionally heavy workload in one craft or occupational group and light workload in another, any employee may be assigned to perform other craft work in the same wage level. Arbitrator Block issued a national level award establishing that management may not assign employees across crafts except in the restrictive circumstances defined in the national agreement. He interpreted Article 17.2b 7.2b and 7.2c as follows. Taken together, these provisions support the inference that management's rights to cross craft lines is substantially limited. The exceptions to the requirement of observing the boundaries arise in situations that are not only unusual, but also reasonably unforeseeable. There is no reason to find that the parties intended to give management discretion to schedule across craft lines merely to maximize efficient personal usage. This is not what the parties have bargained. That an assign across craft lines might enable management to avoid overtime in another group, for example, is not, by itself, a contractually sound reason. It must be shown either that there was insufficient work for the classification or alternatively that work was exceptionally heavy in one occupational group and light as well in another. Inherent in these two provisions, as indicated above, is the assumption that the qualifying conditions are reasonably unforeseeable or somehow unavoidable. To be sure, management retains the right to schedule tasks to suit its needs on any given day. But the right to do this may not fairly be equated with the opportunity to, in essence, create insufficient work through intentionally inadequate staffing. To so hold would be to allow management to effectively cross craft lines at will merely by scheduling work so as to create the triggering provisions of subsections B and C. This would be an abuse of the reasonable intent of this language, which exists not to provide means by which the separation of crafts may be routinely ignored, but rather to provide the employer with certain limited flexibility in the fact of pressing circumstances. The service asserted that the short staffing in the facility due to the large percentage of carriers on medical restrictions and the difficulty of hiring in Burlington, which has very low unemployment, created an ongoing emergency situation, giving management the right to take whatever actions may be necessary to carry out its mission pursuant to Article 3F, which the JCAM discusses as follows. Article 3F, emergencies. Now this is why I wanted this one, because management's going to claim some kind of emergency. We didn't have enough carriers to deliver all the mail. Now, they're leaving mail everywhere. They're leaving routes undelivered, packages undelivered, but when you file a grievance, mail's all is going to become important all of a sudden. Article 3F, emergencies. This provision gives management the right to take whatever actions may be necessary to carry out its mission in emergency situations. An emergency is defined as an unforeseen circumstance or a combination of circumstances which calls for immediate action in a situation which is not expected to be of a recurring nature. Now here, management is creating their own emergency because they are short staffing, they're splitting 6 or 7 routes, 2 or 3 ways. They're, in essence, creating their own emergency. And so when we file these grievances and say, hey, it's an emergency, I had to get the mail back in time, or carriers back from time to dispatch, that's not an emergency. You created the emergency. I had carriers at home that could have come in, that could have carried a lot of these routes that y'all had split. Thus, the service contended that because of an ongoing emergency situation, management was contractually permitted to direct non-city carriers to cross crafts to perform carrier bargaining unit work, and, pursuant to the exception of Section 1 of Article 16A, management was permitted to direct supervisors to perform city carrier bargaining work. Nonetheless, I find the union's argument persuasive that this was not an emergency situation as defined in Article 3F. The severe short staffing that has existed at the Burlington Post Office since October 2017 through at least July 8th of 2018 does not meet the criteria of Article 3F as being an unforeseen circumstance, which calls for immediate action in a situation that is not expected to be of a recurring nature. Management had been aware since October 2017 that the severe short staffing was an ongoing or recurring issue. On an ongoing basis for over 9 months, management had been directing non-city carrier personnel and supervisors to perform carrier work delivering the mail. As a result of a previous grievance filed by the union concerning management's violation of the national agreement, by utilizing management and non-city carrier bargaining unit employees to perform carrier craft work for the period of October 16th, 2017 through February 9th, 2018, management agreed to pay a lump sum settlement to the union. This was further evidence that management was on notice that the short staffing was a long-term ongoing issue rather than unforeseen circumstance calling for immediate action in a situation that was not expected to be of a recurring nature. The severe short staffing in the Burlington Post Office, which lasted in excess of 9 months and resulted in management utilizing management and non-city carrier bargaining union employees to perform carrier craft work, does not meet the criteria of an emergency as defined in Article 3F of the National Agreement. Thus, I conclude that management violated Articles 1.6 and 7.2b and c of the National Agreement when it utilized non-carrier employees to cross crafts and management personnel to perform letter carrier bargaining unit work for the period of February 9th through July 8th. And gave the remedy. So there's your two sites. Both of those are good because they cover two very important things. Things that I project management to use against us. Emergency, right? Short staffing, you did that yourself. And then maybe some form of dispatch of value, window of operation. Okay? Now here's going to take a while. This is the next thing. And I've got this because, and I've seen this before. Somebody sent me this a while back, and now I've seen it again. Hey, Corey, I'm a steward out of this place and have ran into one dick of a manager. We had an investigatory interview for expanding street time. And immediately after, the carrier was issued a 1017A. I don't even know where to start with this. I'm thinking utilizing all the stationary event items you've listed on your website, but I don't know where to attack the 1017A itself. Any help would have been appreciated in this. And then I read the last week I read another one where they talked about the carrier was put in for a 1017A because the postmaster or manager said that they were having street inactivity. Right? Remember that? They said that there was street inactivity, so you were put in for a 1017A, time disallowance. Here it is again. I read that one last week. Here's this one again. It says, we had an investigatory interview for expanding street time, and immediately after, the carrier was issued a 1017A. And so we're going to cover that because we're going to grieve these things. Here's where management's going again. While your president is on a podcast with these sorry bastards. They're going to start stealing from us because of GPS data. They're going to show that we are stationary. Now, where did they get that from? 1983. That's your president there. Stationary events. They're going to start deducting that from our time. That's not a lie. I just told you that. I just showed you that, right? Last week saying that they had put me on a 1017A because of stationary events. So here's how we're going to beat it. We need the tax clock rings first off, okay? Get the tax clock rings for that day. 2 reasons: to show that we worked and that there was a time disallowance on there. Secondly, to show that we're on the street function, okay? And if I'm on a street function, that means I'm under street management. And that's where Section 134 of the M39 handbook is coming in. For people who've never heard of a 1017A, it's time disallowance record. Okay? Time disallowance record. You've heard of the 1017B, that's unauthorized overtime. This is 1017A. This is where they're going to steal time from us. Okay? On the 1017A, it shows date, year, pay period, week, day, total clock time, total disallowed time, supervisor's initials, and the date the employee notified, and remarks. Okay? Date employee notified. So we need to make sure that the carrier was notified. I would request these things. They may say you're fishing. You know, you can't go on this fishing expedition. But I'm telling you, they're stealing time. Last week I showed you that one. Here's another one this week. On the 1017A, when you look at the second page, you're going to go down. It says time clock offices, codes. It's got the codes. Time card offices, codes, got that. And then it says note. And this is one of the things we're going to highlight in our contentions. Okay, we're going to put the 1017A in there. If you go to online, you can look up 1017A USPS, and it'll pull up the 1017A for you, the form. You're going to need this because there's a note. Only when a supervisor observes or has reason to know. I'll read that again. Only when a supervisor observes or has reason to know, not guess, not speculate, a reason to know that an employee did not work while on the clock, may the supervisor disallow any such time that the employee recorded. The supervisor must document the basis for any such disallowance. That's on the 1017A. I'll read that again. Only when a supervisor observes or has reason to know that an employee did not work while on the clock, may the supervisor disallow any such time that the employee recorded. The supervisor must document the basis for any such disallowance. I'm going to ask for the 4584s, observation of driving practices. That's street observation. Okay? I'm going to ask for any 4584 done on the day in question. You're not going to get one. On the bottom of the 4584, okay, on the very bottom to the right, underneath signature, original, 1, PEDC manager, 2, to the driver. So I need to get a copy of the 4584. Okay? Your carrier's not going to have one because they're not going to go out there too fucking fat and lazy to go out and do their fucking job. So they're just going to keep looking at these scanners, right? That we should have addressed 2 fucking years ago about this stationary bullshit. But we're too fucking lazy ourselves to do that shit. But anyway, and now here, look at us. Look at us now. Now they're disallowing time based off of scanner data. They're stealing from us based off of this shit. And we can't go to national arbitration still? Motherfuck. They're coming after us, though. They're going to steal from us. We're out there doing the fucking work. These fat, lazy bastards are sitting in a chair looking at a fucking computer screen. Well, it looks like Corey's been sitting there for 6 minutes. I'll just take that time off of him. These fat fucks doing that shit, man. My people in light blue are out there every fucking day working their fucking ass off. The only ones fucking working. Out on the fucking street in the fucking heat and cold and shit, all this fucking inclement weather. You got these fat bastards sitting in a fucking chair stealing from us. And your president on a fucking podcast with these bastards. Anyway, get a copy of the 4584, okay? We're also going to use 1458, M1458, okay? This is going to be a big one for us. Now, they've not had anything come out since M1458 to dispute this, okay? MSP does not set performance standards, either in the office or on the street. MSP does not set performance standards, either in the office or on the street. With current technology, MSPS records of scan times are not to be used as time card data for pay purposes. That's M1458. MSP records of scan times are not to be used as time card data for pay purposes. Now, what are they using? What are they using against us to disallow this time? Scanner data. MSP records of scan times, that's scanner data. MSP data may not constitute the sole basis for disciplinary action. However, it may be used by the parties in conjunction with other records to support or refute disciplinary action. Okay? So, I'm going to use that. M1458. All right? Now, let's go to section 134 of the M39 handbook. And we've dealt with this numerous times. 134, and this is the reason I want the tax clock rings, okay? Because it's going to show me on a street function, okay? Once I leave the office, I'm on the street, right? As soon as I clock out of the office, I clock to the street. 134, street management. So anything that happens while I'm on the street falls under the purview of 134 of M39 Handbook. 134.1 Objectives. 134.1.1 Street management is a natural extension of office management. So that means they're not the same. Street management is a natural extension of office management. I've got an office time, I've got a street time. All carriers are to be notified to expect daily supervision on the street, just as they receive daily supervision in the office. Now, here's where my business agent, the one I've got now that we're fixing to run out of there, was trying to sell me when I had that case going to arbitration about management using GPS data on us, right? And he used that line. Well, all carriers are to be notified to expect daily supervision on the street, just as they receive daily supervision in the office. That's what he was telling me. Well, you should expect to be supervised on the street. They're not supervising me on the street. They're in the office looking at shit. That's how he tried to sell me on, because that was what labor was selling him on. For a delivery manager to fully understand and control the organization, the manager must be aware of any conditions that affect delivery anywhere within the service territory. 134.12 Accompanying carriers on the street. Accompanying, that means going with me, being with me, not sitting in a chair, eating Funyuns, and drinking a fucking gallon gulp. It means going with me on the street. Accompanying carriers on the street is considered an essential responsibility of management and one of the manager's most important duties. Managers should act promptly to correct improper conditions. A positive attitude must be maintained by the manager at all times. 134.2 Techniques. 134.21 The manager must maintain an objective attitude in conducting street supervision and discharge this duty in an open and above-board manner. 134.22 The manager is not to spy or use other covert techniques. Any employee infractions are to be handled in accordance with the section in the current national agreement that deal with these problems. 134.3 134.3 Criteria for need. Certain criteria may call attention for individual street supervision. When overtime or auxiliary assistance is used frequently on a route, foot, motorized, parcel, post, collection, relay. When a manager receives substantial evidence of loitering or other actions or lack of action by one or more employees, or when it is considered to be in the interest of the service, the manager may accompany the carrier on the street to determine the cause. I'm going to read this portion again. When a manager receives substantial evidence of loitering or other actions or lack of action. If you're saying that you're deleting my time because I have been stationary, you're saying that that is based off of a lack of action on my part, right? By one or more employees, or when it is considered to be in the interest of the service, the manager may accompany the carrier on the street to determine the cause. It does not say anything about stealing from me. You're saying that there's a lack of action on my part. That's what you're saying based off of this GPS data, which we've already beaten with that step 4 I just gave you. But you're saying that based off of GPS data, there's a lack of action on my part. I want to see the 4584s. Before you started stealing from me, before you started deleting my time, disallowing my time, I want to see the street observations. 4584s. There's none. Then you're in violation of section 134 of the M39 handbook. Because you're saying that you deleted my time, you disallowed my time based off of a lack of action on my part. That's what you're saying. So you're disallowing my time. So I'm going after that. Okay? That's 134 of the M39 handbook. On episode 105, I have all these things. One is from Jill Menard. Now, this cost me one of my best moles here. One of my best rats. But I put it in there because it's too important. But it's from Jill Menard, Labor Relations Specialist, Eastern Area, and it's an email from her. And it's to all these managers, and I've deleted the managers on there. I didn't want y'all to see them. Sent out 2013. This is what she says. I was informed by headquarters that as of Monday, 6/17, the union has been notified that the devices that include GPS capabilities are now turned on. In regards to disciplining employees, it's the same as with MSP, GPS and LLVs, etc. They should not be the sole basis in issuing discipline. The GPS capabilities and the new scanner cell phones are simply a tool for management. For example, if management identifies something through GPS, then they should physically be going out and observing it. If discipline has been issued prior to the notification or as the sole basis, I am advising you that you may want to revisit the discipline that was issued. I'll read this portion again. For example, if management identifies something through GPS, then they should be physically going out and observing it. That's in accordance with Section 134 of the M39. Here's an email from Eastern Area Labor Specialist telling them if you see something through GPS, you must physically go out and observe it. They're not doing that. They're just stealing from us. Okay? Now here's a grievance starter, and I just Googled it. Time disallowance. NELC. And it's got the issue statement, and I'm going to just read a few things off of it that will help you, because if you're like, where do I even start on a time disallowance grievance? I'm putting all those things I talked about into the grievance file. But the issue statement, did management violate Articles 5, specifically the Fair Labor Standards Act, Article 34, Section A, Article 41, Section 3K, along with Section 432.712, 665.16, and 665.44 of the Employee and Labor Relations Manual, Sections 146.251 and 146.266 of Time and Attendance Handbook F21 via Article 19 at this station by falsely editing letter carrier time clock rings. And there's your issue statement. I'll read it again. But if you Google time disallowance, this will pop up. Time disallowance grievance NELC. Google that. Here's the issue statement again for you. New stewards, or if you've not dealt with this before, write it down. Did management violate Articles 5, specifically the Fair Labor Standards Act, Article 34, Section A, Article 41, Section 3K, along with Sections 432.712, 665.16, and 665.44 of the Employee and Labor Relations Manual, Sections 146.251 and 146.26 of Time and Attendance Handbook F21 via Article 19 at this station by falsely editing letter carrier time clock rings. Then it's got the union's facts and contentions. Article 34, Section A that it talked about states, the principle of fair day's work for a fair day's pay is recognized by all parties of this agreement. Article 41, Section 3K, supervisors shall not require nor permit employees to work off the clock. Beautiful right there, because you cannot prove that I wasn't. That's what I always say when people say, well, it shows you're stationary here. What were you doing? Working. Well, what were you doing? I was working. What were you doing working? Well, hell, I don't keep a list of shit I was doing, but if I'm out there on the street, I'm working. Did you see me doing anything other than that? Well, no, I'm in here on my fat ass. Okay, well, then I'm working. I don't keep a description of every fucking minute I'm on the fucking street, but I'm working. And if you not see me do anything other than that, leave me the fuck alone. 6. The Employer and Labor Relations Manual, ELM Section 432.712 provides allowed time. Supervisors must credit employees with all time designated as work time under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Examples of time that must be credited as work time if the supervisor knows or has reason to believe the activities are being performed during the time include: A. Time spent by employees in performing duties that are part of or related to the employee's principal work activity, such as pulling mail from a distribution case, collecting tools or supplies, and adjusting rest bars. B. Time spent continuing to work after a tour ends in order to correct an error, to prepare records, or to finish up a task. C. Time spent working during meal periods. D. Time spent distributing work to workstations. The Employer and Labor Relations Manual, ELM Section 665.16 provides behavior and personal habits. Now, this is their conduct, where they're stealing, okay? I'm not going to read that because we read that before. It talks about employees are expected to conduct themselves during and outside of work hours in a manner that reflects favorably upon the Postal Service. That's the one they always use against us for anything that we do in discipline. But we're putting that in there because they're stealing, okay? The Employer and Labor Relations Manual, Section 665.44, provides falsification in recording time. Recording the time for another employee constitutes falsification of a report. Any employee knowingly involved in such a procedure is subject to removal or other discipline. Failure of a supervisor to report known late arrivals is regarded as condoning falsification. These practices may also result in criminal prosecution. Handbook F21, Section 146.251A and B provide PS Form 1017A Time Disallowance Record. A PS Form 1017A serves as a permanent and cumulative record of a disallowed time. Supervisors must establish a PS Form 1017A for every non-exempt employee with disallowed time by completing the name and Social Security number blocks. This form should be placed in a notebook binder by pay location or work section and secured from unauthorized access in locked file cabinets or desk drawers. Postmasters are responsible for the control of disallowed time, unauthorized overtime, only time on the clock which has been documented as time not worked by the employee supervisor may be disallowed. B. Document incident of time disallowance on Form 1017A. And I've already read the 1017A to you earlier. Handbook F21, Section 146.26 provides in part creditable work time. Supervisors must credit employees with all time designated as work time under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Article 5 prohibits management from taking actions contradicting their obligations under the law, specifically the Fair Labor Standards Act, which requires management by law to pay carriers for all time spent working. And then it has your contentions. It also has a good request for information that's already filled out for you. Okay? You'll need that. That's very good. Obviously, I can't show that to you, but and then a request for steward time. All I did was Google time disallowance and ALC and pulled up that grievance starter. It's very good for you, okay? It gives you the great contractual provisions you're going to need. Some good contentions, make those your own. It's got a great remedy for you, and so that's very helpful. But there you have it. Time disallowance, because they're going to start stealing from us based off of GPS data, okay? Stationary events. They're going to start stealing, okay? They're just going to start stealing. I got a list of episodes for you. A couple of people reached out last week talking about what would be the best episodes to start listening to for protecting your routes. They're going to have their carriers at their station start listening to those episodes because you got a joint process probably coming. 6-day count. look, we need to show that we've done everything we're supposed to do on 6-day counts. Management's going to come in and rake us over the coals on that. We need to do our jobs as far as protecting our routes. That way, when they do go to arbitration, we'll be very successful, okay? So here's a list. If you want this list, I gave this out to numerous people last week. I tell you, man, last week was the busiest week I've ever had since starting from 8 arbitration. By far. It was every day, all day long on phone calls and messages and sending out things. It was crazy. But, you know, we're helping a lot of people, which is good. So here's a list of just some initial route protection episodes, okay? If you want to get a pen and paper. I'm just going to start running them off. Episodes 52, 57, 58, 67, 69, 179, 181, 183, 185, 186, 188, 193, 195, 197, 199, and 217. Those are some great episodes. A lot of those JB did about route protection, okay? And we'll start doing more of those, being as probably having a joint process coming up, okay? So there's your episode. Wasn't as long as I thought it was going to be, but still a lot of reading, which is extremely boring and makes me yawn a lot. Next week, I'm going to get into these other screenshots. We got stuff going on the MDD devices about management saying we can't use those to text in, that you're going to have to use your phone. I had one individual say, I'm not going to use my phone, and they're saying, find somebody on your route and use their phone. Swear to God, that's an email I got. Find somebody on your route, use their phone, but don't use the MDD device to message us. Don't text us. You know why they do that? They don't want a record of it. If I text you, I got a record. Phone call, it's your word against theirs. They don't want a record, so they don't want you to text them on the MDD. I'm using the MDD. If they tell me I can't, then I'm going to take my last, whatever you told me last before I left the station, and I'm going to follow that directive. Okay? But anyway, we'll get into that next week. There's a lot more screenshots, but I knew those would take a little bit of time. But those are two things that came up. I had numerous people reach out about that. Just management carrying our shit. You know, we're not going to bring anybody in. We're just going to carry the mail ourselves to show that we're making these hours. And then time disallowance, which is absolutely crazy that we're out there working and management just decided they're just going to steal from us. They're just going to steal from us and invite my dumbass president onto their podcast because he's a dumb fool. But anyway, y'all have a fantastic rest of the week. We're going to be a lot of places this week. Make sure y'all come see us, okay? Make sure y'all come see us. Getting excited about taking over this thing. We really are. Hot House with Richie Ray. Make sure y'all listen to that. We had a good time of it, man. We stayed on there a couple of hours just yucking it up, me and him. But I love you. I love you, Light Blue. And I can't wait to get in there and start making a change and difference, okay? It's coming. It's coming. Everybody knows it. And we can't wait. We can't wait, man. We're excited. But I love you. Y'all be careful out there, okay? And I'll talk to y'all next Sunday. All right? Bye.